Welcome to part 2 of my analysis of the 2022 Guilford County Republican Party Convention. And I might actually need a third part because I'm looking at my clock right now. I got 35 minutes until I need to head to work. But we'll see. I always I don't like to rush things. I just talk about everything I want to talk to and discuss everything and try to inform you, the listener or viewer of this YouTube channel, and try to give as much information as I can and try to break it down so it's easy to follow and make sure try to have it lively and interesting. So, okay, let me give you a couple things that I have not discussed from previous conventions and talk about the convention agenda. Now, at the state convention, the agenda is very fixed. It's, this elected official speaking at 2:05. And then the president of the Republican Women is speaking at 2:10, and then we get through all those, and by about 3 o'clock is when we're going to go into a business session. But at the county convention, it's a lot different. The big reason for that is because these county conventions are... the state convention is one event for the whole state, right? And that's the only game in town for Republican Party politics in North Carolina on that set date. Now, county conventions, our plan of organization says that they all have to be in the month of March. Now, they can be on any day in March, 31 days. One of them is my birthday, by the way. What did you get me for my birthday? All right. Yeah, 31 days in March. But these counties when you're having a county convention, it's always best to get as many people to attend as possible. So what day of the week is best? Well, it's not going to be Sunday, because especially here in North Carolina and the rest of the South, the church is the number one priority on Sundays. And then go to Cracker Barrel or Smithfield's Barbecue for lunch, right? So the only other day of the week when most people are off is Saturday. The best time to get people is Saturday morning. You do your convention in the morning, then people have the rest of the day to do whatever they need to do. So when you look at that, you have usually, depending on how the calendar flows, 3 to 4 or 5 Saturdays. Well, there are 100 counties in North Carolina. So you look at, on any Saturday, the best case scenario is to have maybe 20, 25 conventions on one Saturday, right? If you divide them up equally. Now, some counties do, and I'm glad they do this, these counties, they have them on weeknights. And they, so not all the county conventions are at 10 o'clock on one Saturday. But you also look at a lot of counties, they... like the 5th, the first Saturday in the month, there's not too many, but the 12th, the 19th, the 12th and the 19th, right in the middle of the month, are what you would call the busiest days, where you can have 30 or 50 county conventions all happening at like 10 o'clock in the morning at the same time. Now, fortunately, the district conventions, there's a little bit more coordination, because the district conventions, you usually get more people, less sites. There's 14 congressional districts in North Carolina, so there's going to be 14 district conventions. There's usually, one weekend is Easter weekend, so you try not to have a convention on that particular weekend. So that leaves you with 3 or 4 weekends, but you only have 14 conventions at the district level as opposed to 100 at the county level. So I say this in mind because the agenda at the county convention, counties try to craft an agenda, but it's always going to have to be flexible and interchangeable because you have a lot of candidates running statewide. And on any given Saturday in March, they have to be at like 30 or 50 locations all at once, or they have to try to plan their routes throughout the state to hit as many counties as they possibly can. Because in politics, especially if this is your first time running for office, you have to meet and be exposed to and market yourself to as many people as possible. I don't think the word expose here. No, that doesn't sound right, but I think you get my drift. So yeah, at this convention, the Guilford County Convention, of course, we had the U.S. Senate candidates. Always the statewide candidates you want to give courtesy and yield to first in your agenda. Of course, we had Michael Watley speak, the chairman of the party, state party. And then we had U.S. Senate candidates. And there was an interesting scene, which I didn't tell you in the part 1 video, that Pat McCrory was exiting the gymnasium at our convention site of Charity Baptist Church in Greensboro. McCrory was exiting, and Mark Walker was coming in. And the two, fortunately, they had a friendly exchange. They didn't just shake hands. No, they hugged each other. I thought that was really good, for the purpose of party unity. And man, these primaries, they can really get heated and messy, like a great episode of Family Double Dare from 1992 on Nickelodeon. Yeah. And there's actually a race that's going on. The U.S. Senate race is getting pretty heated, but there's another statewide race, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that is getting messy too. So, but I first wanted to go through this lovely program. Every year, the Guilford County Convention, some counties don't charge a fee to attend, some do. Guilford usually does. The cost is usually $25, but you do get a nice program, nice souvenir. On the back is Billy Queen ran for sheriff. I was going to kind of go through, I'm not going to tell you what's on every page, just some things that really stand out, I think, and that are notable, right? Okay, so we'll go through here. Okay, Mark Walker, people over politics. It's pretty neat. Not an endorsement, by the way. Of course, I'll do my endorsements on a whole other video, probably not for another month or so. Because first, I need to see who's on my ballot. Like, I kind of know, but I need to actually see it from the Guilford County Board of Elections. When you go to the NC Voter lookup, you look up your voter account, and from there they'll have a sample ballot. But they have not posted those yet, so let's see. Okay, we have here we go. This is pretty cool. Slotka for Congress. It's time to get America back on track. Slotka, and then he has Realign America right there. And okay, so when I was exiting the convention venue, there was a lot of campaign literature, a lot of little brochures, and that's leaflets and that sort of thing. But there were three things that I wanted to bring to your attention that really stood out to me. One was this one on Pray for Ukraine, sponsored from Sykes Shoe Repair. This is a fund established for the direct support of family members, friends, and churches in Ukraine. It says, please consider donating to our family members, friends, neighbors, and churches in Ukraine. We are in close contact with them and are told that they are in need of food, medical supplies, gasoline, heaters, and other essential supplies. All funds will be delivered to our relatives directly and then dispersed to those that are in need. And you can go to Give Butter. That's right, Give Butter, BUTTER.com, and then capital LFBGBF. Text Ukraine Sykes to 202-858-1233. The QR code. Leave that up for a little bit, couple, so y'all can look at that. Okay. Next thing that really caught my eye, actually this was at the beginning of registration, 6th District Convention. This is on Saturday, April 9th. Registration will start at noon, and the convention will gavel in or start at 1 p.m. This is at the fabulous Revolution Academy. There at 3800 Oak Ridge Road in Summerfield, just off of I-73. Plenty of parking, a lot more parking than Charity Baptist Church. And a lot easier to get around the parking lot. And there's a traffic light right there off of Oak Ridge Road. And it's like you can be on Interstate 73 within like 45 seconds. It's great. But the purpose of this convention is that we're going to hear from statewide and federal candidates, as well as have the election of officers displaced by redistricting. That's your first vice chair, second vice chair, and secretary. Cost is $20, and that's for delegates and guests, so no free riders here today, okay? Alright, so that's that. And then the other thing that appealed to me as I was leaving, looking at all the canned literature and other stuff, was this little piece. This is from Bill Shook for Congress. I mentioned him, talked about him in the last video, but he has this great article here about the truth about gasoline. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'm going to try to summarize it and hit the highlights here. Okay, it says, about 6 months ago, there was a news program on oil, and one of the Forbes brothers was the guest. The host said to Forbes, "I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I would like a direct answer. How much oil does the U.S. have in the ground?" Forbes did not miss a beat and replied, "More than all the Middle East put together." The U.S. Geological Service issued a report in April 2008 that only scientists and oil men knew was coming. But man, is it big. It was a revised report which had not been updated since 1995 on how much oil was in the western areas of North Dakota, South Dakota, and eastern Montana. Let's see. For years, U.S. oil exploration had been considered a dead end. Even the big oil companies gave up searching for major oil wells decades ago. However, a recent technological breakthrough has opened up the Bakken. That's what this area is called. The Bakken's massive reserves. And we now have access of up to 500 billion barrels, 500 barrels, that'll be gone in like 2 seconds. No, this Bakken area has 500 billion barrels. And I think as a country, America consumes about 10 to 12 million barrels of oil a day. So 500 billion divided by 10 million. Math was not my best subject, but that's a lot of. Basically, it says that the cost to Americans will just be $16 a barrel, which means that the price of gasoline that you pay at the pump, $16 a barrel. Well, back in the 90s, that was about what oil cost. That was about $1.10, $1.20 national average for a gallon of gasoline, which is great. Nowadays, adjusted for inflation, yeah, that's probably about under $2, maybe like $1.75, $2, no more than like $2.25. But get this back end reserve, 500 billion barrels of oil, that's enough oil to fuel fully, not just some, but fully supply the American economy for 2,041 years straight. Let me say that again. We have enough oil in this country to supply America for over 2,000 more years. Oh, and by the way, this report was from way back in 2006, so 16 years ago. Think about 16 years ago. I mean, the smartphone didn't even exist yet. Netflix was just DVD service. Think about how technology has gotten a lot better in 16 years' time, right? Okay, but here's more stunning news from this. This amount of oil is 8 times as much oil as Saudi Arabia, and it's 500 times as much oil as Yemen. And then the 3 other countries are between 8 and 500 times. Iraq, Kuwait, and Iran. Okay. James Barris, lead researcher with the study, says we've got more oil in this very compact area than the entire Middle East, more than 2 trillion barrels on tap. That's more than all the proven oil reserves of crude oil in the world today. This is from the Denver Post. Okay, don't think OPEC will drop its price. Do you think OPEC will drop its price even with this find? Don't think they will? Yeah, think again. I mean, it's all about the competitive marketplace, and if we start opening up this area and get the oil, I mean, the price, OPEC's going to drop its price. Yeah. I mean, it has to, about the competitive marketplace. Okay, and then the article says, do you think OPEC just might be funding the environmentalists, right? Okay, so okay, pass this along. The link is usgs.gov. Look for USGS releases oil and gas assessment. Bakken is BAKKEN, and Three Forks Formation. So thank you for Mr. Shook for sharing that with everybody. Okay, now convention after 18 minutes of other stuff, but okay, I had to share that though to kind of, it was interesting stuff. Okay, so we go to Lee Haywood, run for Congress in District 6. He's running on 3 things: safer streets, safer borders, and safer ballots. He says he wants to abolish the Department of Education. He wants to abolish the Department of Education, and he's very concerned about the national debt. So, and let me tell you that the race for Congress in District 6 is probably the easiest endorsement that I'm going to make in this primary season. And yes, that is I fully support Lee Haywood in his run for Congress. Lee has been an activist, conservative activist for the last about 15 years or so. Started back in 2008 with Conservatives for Guilford County, which was created, and a lot of other Tea Party groups were kind of created because the Republican Party just went off the rails, quite frankly. With Bush, McCain, and Romney, and now, thanks to Donald Trump, a lot of the Tea Party folks have filtered back into the Republican Party, and we have a much stronger party than we did 15 years ago. But Lee Haywood really was very active with the Tea Party movement. Now he's back into the NCGOP. He was district chair of the 6th Congressional District Republican Party for a number of years. Did a great job with that, and just all around great guy. I mean, he's all over the place. Any event you go to around the county or district, he's almost always there. Accessible, very, very friendly guy. Business owner, not one of these, one of the 20,000 attorneys who think they can also be a elected official. Not an attorney, just a common folk business owner. And look, I know there's a lot of good attorneys out there. I mean, Ted Cruz is wonderful, and a lot of other people in the Congress, but there are definitely some schmucks out there as well. But Lee Haywood is not a schmuck. He's a very good guy, and I fully support him and would encourage you to vote for him in the May 17th primary. And he brings up the national debt. And a lot of these candidates running for Congress, unfortunately, they see the debt. It's up to over 30 trillion now. I think when Obama came into office, it was like 8 trillion. So it's and these congressional candidates, unfortunately, they just keep looking the other way. But Lee Haywood is like, look, we got to do something about this. And in that as a younger millennial voter, 35 years old, that is something that I really wish the Democratic Party is never going to get its act together with the debt. But the Republican Party, I would like to think, could make a good fourth effort to do so. I mean, because a lot of people are like, oh, both parties are poison. And I'm like, well, look, okay, the Republicans, yeah, do they crap the bed every once in a while? Yeah, they do, unfortunately. Nothing's perfect, and, the best course that we have to get in our nation in better fiscal health, at least I believe, is the only way is to vote Republican. So that is that. Okay. Remember, I was going to talk to you about a race that's getting real super sloppy for Double Dare here. And that is the race for a seat on the North Carolina Supreme Court. 2 candidates run. The first one that spoke was April Wood. She's a current judge on the North Carolina Court of Appeals. Was actually just elected like 2 years ago. So this was a little bit of a surprise to a lot of us that she was going to jump and try to pursue a seat in the Supreme Court after just 2 years on the appeals court. But she does say that she's the only candidate. Well, let me back up a little bit. Okay, she's a daughter of a military officer, and she's only one. She's the only one that has trial court experience. And let's see. Okay. She talked about her 3 opponents. One has been an attorney for 3 years, and the other one's a professor at the University of North Carolina. She's been endorsed by Liberty First, who does good work. Sue Butcher, I believe, is the name who has that group. And Conservative Coalition of North Carolina. That's Jim Womack's group, does good work too. She says, make court good, vote for Judge Wood. And of course, I definitely agree with a lot of things that Liberty First and Conservative Coalition of North Carolina has done, and a lot of the candidates. This race, though, I'm still undecided on. Trey Allen is the other candidate. He's a Marine Corps veteran. He is homeschooling 5 children. He currently serves as the general counsel for North Carolina Supreme Court, and he was appointed to that position by Paul Newby, who you probably know is, and was asked to run for this Supreme Court seat by, Paul Newby. And let's see, well, talking about the trial court experience, he said that Paul Newby, Clarence Thomas on the federal Supreme Court, and Anthony Scalia on the federal Supreme Court, all three have never had trial court experience. And he said, how about those apples, pretty much? Well, great. I don't think I don't think I have ever been disappointed in any of their rulings. So that's a very good, valid point. It says, look, Constitution should mean what it says. And it also says to rights don't disappear during states of emergencies. We always have rights as Americans. Just because an elected official or a terrible one in Governor Cooper says we're in a state of emergency does not mean that rights disappear. And he's been a professor at UNC for 10 years. He didn't just show up this year, become a professor, and says, I'm going to run for the Republicans, I'm going to run for a seat on the Supreme Court as a Republican. No, he's been there for 10 years. And think about the spewing liberal volcano there in UNC Chapel Hill and what Mr. Allen has had to face. And that's pretty. And he's endorsed by Paul Newby. I mean, think about that. That's some pretty compelling arguments here. And then he finally said, don't go astray, vote for Trey. So that's definitely a race I'm going to have to do my homework on, folks. That one, both candidates I think are both very highly qualified. Both would make really good members of the state judiciary branch. Now we have another congressional candidate, Mary Ann Janus, running for the District 6 seat. She is a plastic surgeon and owner of a small business, was raised in Greensboro. Her parents are legal immigrants of Greece. And the family has owned Acropolis restaurant in Greensboro for a number of years. And the restaurant has always been closed on Sundays because her and her family believes that Sunday's a day for church and spending time with family. That's one of the neat things about the South, is that there's still a pretty good number of businesses that are closed on Sundays. My employer is not one of them, but there's a lot of restaurants. I think it's very hard to buy a car on Sundays. It's very hard to get your car serviced, going to a mechanic on Sunday. A lot of those places are still closed on Sundays. Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. A lot of restaurants, as I said, are closed on Sundays. But Mrs. Janus is a lifelong Republican, and she called out Kathy Manning on her vote for Nancy Pelosi, because if you remember what it was back in 2018, she was going in a competitive district. Now it's very blue, but it was competitive back in that redistricting incarnation, that Kathy Manning said, looked to the camera, says, I won't vote for Pelosi for Speaker, and yet goes to Washington, and guess what? One of her first votes was to vote for Pelosi for Speaker. And then not supporting the Biden agenda, trying to run as a moderate, and we all know that moderate, it 90% of the time it means it's a nice way it's trying to stretch yourself to the uninformed voters that you're actually not going to be. You're not a liberal Democrat when actually you are. Now there are two U.S. senators, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, who are actually moderate, or you can even say are dinos, Democrats in name only. And have done a pretty good job. Pretty good. Not as good as Rick Scott in the U.S. Senate, or Ted Cruz or Rand Paul, any of those. But those two dinos have done a pretty good job in stopping Joe Biden's agenda. Okay. So what do we have next? Okay. Let's see. Business. Okay. The business session. Okay. We had 129 delegates. And then we actually do what a lot of counties don't do, is we actually read the names of all 129 delegates that are eligible to attend the district convention and the state convention. Not a lot of counties do this, and I definitely applaud Chairman Gleason for implementing this step in the business session. You know, it's just a good formal way to know that, you know, people know when your name is registered and called that you are a delegate to this district or state convention. A lot of other counties just say it's an up and down vote. Do we elect all the delegates to the district convention, yay or nay? Elect delegates to the state convention, yay or nay? But this is actually adds some teeth to the process, which I like. Okay, and then actually at the very end of the convention, we had a delegate, Jeff Phillips, former county commissioner, who registered as a delegate but was unable to attend the precinct meetings back on February 19th, but his name was added to the delegate list. So for official records, there were 130 delegates who attended the Guilford County Republican Party Convention of 2022 and are eligible for and can attend the district and state convention. Then we go into resolutions. Yeah, that part of the state convention that was not heard last year. 15 resolutions at the state convention were not heard. And they were also not heard at the state executive committee meeting back in December. But I'm here to tell you that resolutions were heard at the Guilford County Convention this year. We had two of them. One of them is a resolution, resolved that the Republican Party of Guilford County recognizes and promotes the importance of parental involvement in their child's education and recognizes the necessity of school choice as a tool to empower all parents with the freedom to choose the best educational environment for their children and to reject the destructive ideologies promoted by many public schools, such as critical race theory. Okay. There was only one adjustment that was made from the convention floor, and that was to add in the title, what we call, I guess, the abstract, the little blurb summary. And to combat destructive ideologies like critical race theory promoted by many public and private schools, and private was added to that. And also at the very end in the resolved clause, and private schools was added to that as well. This resolution was submitted by Paul Norcross, and yours truly says thank you to Mr. Norcross for taking the time to craft the resolution and bringing it to the convention's attention. And this passed unanimously. The next resolution is a topic that has a lot of passionate debate. and I'm pretty passionate about the opposition. And, well, look, it actually is a good time for me to stop. So, yeah, I'll leave you hanging with a cliffhanger. Next time, we'll talk about the other resolution, number 2. We'll look at county commission candidates. And we'll take a look at the sheriff's candidates. And then we'll wrap it up in part 3. So stay tuned for that. Bye-bye.